U.S. Customs and Immigration Enforcement is impacting Memphis students. Last week, Memphis Business Academy students walked out of class protesting the detention of one of their classmates. A high schooler catching a ride with his girlfriend to school was pulled over and detained. Organizers say that student is being held at the detention facility in Mason, Tennessee. Also this week, Tennessee House lawmakers advanced a bill that requires public schools to verify and report students' immigration status to the state. It passed out of a House Finance Subcommittee and is headed for a hearing in the full committee next week. Memphis Shelby County school leaders released data showing nearly 40% of high school students in the district's comprehensive support and improvement schools are at risk of being chronically absent this year. A teacher, Noah Nordstrom, points to ICE's presence contributing to students' absence.
In September, we saw, the big influx of ICE into town, and it really affected attendance rates. Things didn't really recover from the beginning of the school year, right before all that happened. So I think that's been one of the factors that's been really making it difficult, is just a lot of times convincing kids and families hey, it's actually safe to send your kids to school.
And not to mention, MSCS also had a press conference Friday morning, this morning, about the looming state takeover and their alternative plan. And this is all before the audit results will be released. So, Scott, I'll open it up to you here. So lots to kind of unpack there. But let's start with first just the ICE immigration and the students walking out. A student was detained. Should students be off limits when it comes to immigration enforcement?
Well, if I understand correctly, the student was 18 years old, was an adult.
Right.
So that probably would
factor
in, but a student. And I'm not 100% comfortable with ICE raiding schools. There are plenty of other areas where ICE can do the work and accomplish their mission. What I am concerned about is the bill that you mentioned about the reporting, that the schools are required to report. And my problem is that I read where it could cost schools across the state $55 million in extra cost to employees and doing this to do these reports. And you got to figure Shelby County is the largest school district, so that's probably maybe $5 to $8 million that it might cost Shelby County. That's money we don't have. And I'm not sure what that would accomplish, because from what I read in the bill, the report doesn't name the individuals. It just tells the numbers in the school system. And I'm not sure what gets accomplished by that. But if that's the cost that we face, that certainly would be burdensome on our school system.
And go ahead, Pastor Norman.
Just a little disappointed in the opening part of that answer. Should a student be off limits? Yes. 18, I understand, but we're talking about in the presence of students and also in school proximity. At some point, we need to have some rules around what we're going to do. Either we're going to go after the hardened criminals, which is what we said we were going to do, and stick to that, but we got to leave students alone. And then we got to have some respect for institutions in the United States. Churches and schools and other places need to be given consideration that we don't go in and disrupt these spaces, because that's what ICE has been doing. I have had an ICE visit on my own parking lot at my church where there is a school, and I had to go out and confront them personally and ask them to leave, because here I have over 30 men and women with weapons and vests on, and I have a school on the inside. I do not want those kids to be in conflict and for there to be some jeopardy. This was 1 week after 2 people have been killed in Minneapolis, and so we have to draw some framework around this. My only other point you mentioned is that we've got to get education right in Shelby County. If we're looking for people to invest, the Chamber has over 50 new businesses that they're inviting to Shelby County. People don't just want a nice house, they want a great education system. Where will my kids go to school? And so at this pivotal point in our city's history, the state has to work with us, and the local officials have to get it right so that we can get education right in Shelby County.
Otis, you have the last point on this.
Well, yeah, I just think that, let's be honest, the task force overall has helped to reduce crime.
Yes.
But the ICE and Border Patrol people have wreaked havoc. And that is not being helpful here. that report about absenteeism flies in the face of something U.S. Attorney Mike Donovan said at the Rotary Club the other day, saying that absenteeism is down. Well, it's not down because there are a lot of people who are afraid to go to school. So I agree with Keith on this. Let's have some places that are off limits here that you don't raid with guns and vests and intimidating tactics, especially when it involves young people.
And I wish we could talk more about the former Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem being fired this week, but we are running into time. So when we come back, we're going to talk about candidate forums. We're going to talk about candidate forums and how you should vet whether they're fair and impartial. Stay with us.